I'd like to call our afternoon council meeting order. Welcome everyone here today. Great to see people in the council chamber. Thank you for coming. I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure, any interest on the municipal conflict of interest act. Seeing none, we will today have some speakers. So I'm going to ask is people when they address the podium, the mic, state your name and speak into the mic because we tape this and a lot of our ratepayers like to watch the council. I'm not sure how many, I say a lot. So we have a lot of business today, so we'll get started. Got a resolution moved by Councillor Potnevich, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the minutes of the town of Minto January 6th, 2026 regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's carried. So I have another resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the council of the town of Minto convene into closed revision. All in favor of that motion? Okay. So if you folks don't mind coming up.
Yeah, but you wanted to set it between the mayor and deputy mayor.
Oh, okay.
That'll be fine.
Okay, so this afternoon we have a court revision, drain number 3. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the purpose of the court of revision meeting is to hear appeals, schedule of the assessment for Minto drain number 3 located on lot 41, concession 8, town of Minto, county of Wellington. I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve McCabe from Wellington North and Lori Wedham from Mapleton. And Dean Anderson and myself, so the 4 of us will be on this court. So the following are attached on to the agenda: court of revision jurisdiction and notice of court of revision, provisional bylaw 2025-072, the municipal drain number 3, presentation from Streamline Engineering Inc., and a written appeal of assessment received from Elizabeth and Janet Felix. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of any pecuniary interest on this.
I have none.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll move along. We'll ask our engineer for comments first, please. Mr. Pickford. Welcome to our council meeting today, sir.
Just make sure it's green.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay? Thank you very much, Chair. And Annalene, are you running the slides then if I just give you a nod?
Quinn will.
Okay, if I just give you a nod, change slides, that's perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Chair. So for today, as a court of revision only handles appeal specific to assessments made to properties, and only written appeal submitted was in regards to the assessment against the Elizabeth and Janet Felix property that is part lot 97 concession C. My presentation is going to be focused on that specific property's assessment. I apologize in advance. It is a little bit to explain, so I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide and the one after that. So the first thing I'll go through here is just some existing conditions, just so everybody has a similar baseline. So existing conditions particular to the appeal we're talking about today. So there's a crossing going into a residential area that you'll see on the screen there. It's been subject to flooding. So these were pictures from this past springtime. If you go to the next slide, please. So the picture in the far left there is the existing drain crossing as it is now. Middle picture there, you'll see there was some of the laneway was getting overtopped in the spring months. And if you look at the picture in the far right, that's the channel looking towards the crossing. It might be a little difficult to see, but if you look in the far, far right of that picture, you'll see there's a number of plastic culverts that had been installed through the laneway to help try and mitigate some of the flooding that's happening on that property. And if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. An additional crossing, so the property, the drain cuts off a portion of the property, and right now the landowners are having to drive through the drain to get access to the hayfield this past year. So there's kind of an aerial shot of that area right now, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. And there's essentially in the spring months what you'd be looking to drive through to get across the drain. And if you go to the next picture as well, the picture on the left shows that same flooded area more in the summertime, where it's dried up a little bit more. And then the picture on the far right just generally shows the channel on the property that we're looking at. So those were kind of the issues that we were faced when we were working through this report. So we came up with some proposed improvements. And if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So the first thing is we're looking at some general channel work. So we're doing some clean out downstream of the laneway, just to improve the conveyance of the water beyond the laneway crossing. We're actually looking at deepening and widening the channel through the property of interest to improve the conveyance. Generally, we're lowering the channel by about 1 foot to 2 feet on average in depth. We're also widening the channel by about 1.5 meters on the property of interest. The laneway crossing, we're proposing 2.2 meter diameter steel culverts. In comparison to right now, there's some smaller culverts, but the main conduit is a 1,500 millimeter steel culvert. And yeah, if you want to go to the next slide. So again, where the landowner was having to drive through the drain, we're proposing a cable concrete crossing. So the picture on the right would generally show it's a little bit more to stabilize the channel. When there's water flowing through, you could still drive equipment through the channel without sinking into the drain or anything like that. Yeah, and essentially the idea behind all those proposed improvements was to help mitigate the flooding and whatnot happening through the laneway as well as through the property in the spring months. It was very clear that was a big problem, yeah, in the recent years and probably for quite some time. So now we get into how do we assess out those costs. So we get into the assessment rationale. So a key component of our job is to determine a fair way to assess out costs. So the Drainage Act authorizes the engineer to assess costs using benefit assessments, Section 22 of the Act, and Section 23 outlet assessments. Just to give a generic overview, benefit assessments are generally made to the properties in the vicinity of where work's completed. For this project, we've considered properties that will have reduced flooding as a result of the work, as well as properties receiving a new or improved crossing subject to benefit assessments. Outlet assessments apply to all the lands that contribute water towards the drainage system, and we base that off the volume and rate of flow expected from those properties. Basically, when we're going through our assessment rationale, we're trying to strike a balance between, what should be considered benefit assessment, what should be considered outlet assessment. For this particular project, the Jim and Liz Felix property, their opinion was, why should we have to pay to put a crossing through our laneway? All this water is other people's water. On the other hand, if you look at somebody at the very, very top end of the drain, their opinion would typically be, I'm very far removed. That there's some properties over 10 kilometers away. Why should I have to pay towards an issue on somebody else's property? And in reality, when we're working through our assessments, we're trying to strike a balance as to what's fair. So we circulated a letter to Elizabeth Felix. She had requested rationale for how we broke out those costs. I believe that was provided to everybody at the court. I'll try and go through that very briefly here. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, or next one, and one more. So anyway, we just skip back. So that was a letter that was provided to the landowner. So essentially our process for divvying out the cost, and if you could zoom in on kind of the bottom left of that map, please. So we essentially break out the drain into different segments or different chunks. And we determine all the costs allocated to each of those individual segments of the drain. And if you wouldn't mind zooming in on the table at the bottom of this page. So this, yeah, sorry, I guess that's as good as we can get it. But so the table essentially summarizes, so every segment will have a construction cost associated with it, allowance costs associated with it, as well as administration costs, which is essentially our engineering time going up to the completion of the report, engineering time during construction, HST for the project, any interest charges, permitting fees, all those kind of overarching costs. So we consolidate those on a segment by segment basis. And then what we do is we go segment by segment and we allocate those costs to the property owners. So I'm going to go through the first 3 segments. And if you wouldn't mind zooming in on the bottom left portion of that map once again. So the property of interest is circled in red there. So an important consideration for the appealing landowners, so they don't get assessed any costs beyond segment 2. So segment 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way up to 8, all those costs, they're not assessed anything. And the reason being is their lands don't actually contribute any water to that portion of the system, and they're getting no perceived benefits from that portion of the work. So I'm just going to go through our breakdown for segments 1, 2, and 3, just to determine how we've come up with those costs. So if you wouldn't mind going to the first table, please, which will be the next slide. Okay, and if you could zoom in on the top left, please. So that letter, we kind of outlined our methodology for how those costs are distributed. So first step in the top left there, you'll see the total segment cost for this particular one, $28,300. The next line is how much acreage is contributing to this segment, and we determine that to be just a little over 5,400 factored acres. So we need to take a look at, should any of these costs be directly assessed to a specific landowner. In this particular segment, the only work being proposed is some erosion and sediment control, drain clean out, as well as some riprap erosion protection. So in this case, we did not assess any cost directly. So once we've dealt with direct costs, in this case, there's none, we have a total that we're going to divvy out for benefit and outlet split. And if you follow that red line, 28,300, we've split out 1/3 of those costs as benefit costs. We've split out the remaining 2/3 as outlet costs. So the benefit costs get allocated as per the green column. And this is 3 pages. There's so many properties involved in this particular project. So the green column summarizes that. And then the outletting costs for this particular segment, that $18,867 divided by how much area there is, works out to $3.48 per factored acre. That gets assessed to all the contributing lands. So this next page, and I won't get into it too much, so there's 3 pages here. That essentially goes through how these costs have been allocated. And maybe if we just go to page 2, I know that's where the Elizabeth and Janet Felix property is. You know, they've been assessed a portion of the benefit. If you zoom in kind of on the middle there, yeah, there that 4-100 property. So for that particular segment, they're assessed a $3,773 benefit, and then they have a small contribution to outlet. So that's kind of the smaller segment. The bigger one in this particular project is segment 2. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this is where this segment includes the bulk of the laneway crossing being done, the crossing being done through the channel itself, as well as the channel improvements. So this segment costs $135,600. We need to determine if there's any costs we want to give directly to any owners. So in this case, typically with a laneway crossing, whoever's getting the laneway crossing would be assessed a portion of that, and they were. The Elizabeth and Janet Felix property was assessed 1/3 the construction cost of that crossing, as well as $7,500 in administration for that. In a similar sense, the crossing through the drain, again, they were assessed 1/3 of the construction costs of that crossing, as well as a $3,000 administration charge. All the remaining crossing costs get assessed to the outletting land. So all the upstream landowners are paying a portion towards the remainder of the cost. The one other thing I'll note here, I touched on those plastic culverts going through the laneway. It was our understanding that those were installed to deal with some of the flooding. We were of the opinion that those do provide some value to the drain. So what we ended up doing was we provided, so for this, all the crossings, 2/3 of the costs were getting paid by the outletting lands. We valued those crossings, those plastic culverts at $9,000. We took 2/3 of that and we essentially assessed that as a cost to upstream lands, and that's provided to the landowner as an allowance. So that ends up being a $6,000 allowance for the landowner coming off of their final assessment. So once that's all said and done, if you look at the red arrow, the remaining costs, again, we split into benefit and outlet, 33% benefit, 67% outlet, and those costs are divvied out based on that table there. And if you wouldn't mind, I won't go into that too much more here. I'll do segment 3 because this is where the appealing property owner, they're no longer assessed in this segment, but just for purely for demonstration, there is one crossing on this particular property. It's on the Marty Pronk property. And I think the big thing to iterate for this one was, again, we use the same rationale. 1/3 of that cost of that crossing was assessed directly to Marty Pronk's property, and then as well as a $7,500 administrative charge. So that crossing was assessed in the exact same manner as what the crossing was on the Elizabeth and Janet Felix property. So yeah, I've said a lot there. I'll maybe leave it there for now, and I'm happy to clarify or answer any other questions that you might like.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper. That was well done. Certainly gives us much better understanding on what's happening. Do we have questions? Okay, we'll leave it there for now. We'll go on to the written appeal of the assessment. It was received. I'll just read this. All appeals are required to be received in writing 10 days prior to the date of the court of revision. So as per the December 22nd, 2025 notice. So it's Elizabeth and Janet Felix. And so I'm going to ask whoever wants to speak, you want to tell us exactly what the appeal is about. Mr.
Thank you. Jim Gross, I'm going to be speaking on behalf of this property as well as Liz will be too. First matter at hand, I might as well get it out of the, there was a report done back in 1981 on this drain, and I believe there's a copy with your paperwork. We all,
Jim, would you mind just speaking into the mic, please, or just turn it? Perfect.
is that better?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. There is a copy of the report in with the appeal letter. There was a bunch of work done upstream by the 6th line up into properties upstream. I don't know all the names of who owns them all, and I think the one's Jonas's and one's they did a bunch of deepening of the ditch, widening the ditch, took out a 8-foot pipe, I believe it was 8 feet, dropped it 2 feet lower in the ditch and put another 8-foot pipe beside it. On the first page of that report, on the engineer's findings, it clearly tells you that downstream laneway culvert is not a sufficient outlet. It's not the council of today. We have to think back. It's the people that were involved back then. They totally broke the Drainage Act right there. That should have been rectified at that time. If you look at the current report right now, any place that had work done back in the 80s is getting 0 work today, does not need any work today. So we're being assessed $49,000 for something that could have been fixed for $4,000 if they'd have done it right back then. We can't fix that, but I'm just asking for things to be fair here. If you look at the estimates in the report for the two crossings, they totaled 44,000. I'm not sure where the 49.2 for assessment come up with. If we were paying 30% of 44,000, that's what, 12,000, 14,000? That's a long way off of the assessment of 49,000. If you do the math on it, right? So technically that it was not a sufficient outlet at the time, which is totally wrong. I talked to the property owners that actually lived there in the 80s, and they said they fought like crap to have it fixed properly, and nobody would give them the time of day. So this has been going on since the mid 80s. Prior to that, there was no real flooding. Minimal, very minimal is what he said. So it just frustrates me a little bit that somebody cut corners back in the 80s and now we're being assessed $50,000 today. So that's my, and like I said, we're paying 30% of the cost. The estimates in this report, because I added them up just before I left home, for the two crossings is $44,000. And if we're paying 30% of that, that's not 49,000 for benefit, right? So that's the part on the insufficient outlet, which should never happen. Unfortunately, it does. But my question is, why are the property owners today paying for something that wasn't done properly back then? Okay. There is other, it actually works out to, if you do the math, it works out that we're paying for that property, we're paying for the water going through those pipes, through the laneway pipe, let me rephrase that. We're paying $4,920 an acre. So it's just about $5,000. There's properties further upstream that are getting crossings put in, and they're paying $350 per acre. $350. To me, that's how does that work out? For us to put a crossing in there for our water, I could put a crossing in there, a 3-foot pipe to take our water for less than $5,000 or around $5,000. So, and I know a municipal drain, and we all know a municipal drain, if your water runs through there, you get to pitch in, right? And it's no different than we're pitching in for the clean out downstream. So it's just, I don't think it's fair. In my mind, that assessment should be a third of what it is. So, okay, that covers the assessment. The next one is the right-of-way allowance. In this report, it says that everybody gets 10 meters or has to provide 10 meters of right-of-way for doing work. Through our property, it's 20 meters. But if you go to, where is it? Page 13. In this report, a $30,000 per acre allowance has been provided in areas where the drain footprint is proposed to be increased. So it's proposed to be deepened by 1 to 2 feet, as Trevor said, through our property, and 1.5 meters wider. So you're changing the footprint. And on page 13, it says you're paying $30,000 an acre for allowances. And I'll be honest with you, I've asked for the amount of material that's going to be coming out of there in cubic meters, and I've asked twice and nobody wants to give it to me. So I went ahead and figured it out myself. And that 20-meter right away to spread the material, I'm going to say that field's going to be 1 foot or 1.5 foot higher along the ditch, and it's going to trap the water back in the field. Because I don't think it's, to get it spread out properly so that the surface water actually gets to the ditch instead of sitting in behind the berm. I'm going to call it a berm, but Like I said, I've asked for the quantities in case I screwed up on my figuring, because I'm not an expert. But nobody's given it to me at this point, so I had to go with my numbers that I come up with. But that 30,000 an acre allowance is not in there. Under the allowances. And if they're gonna, 20 meters, if that works out to, it's on the last page of our appeal letter there, it works out to 1.02 acres or something. Is what we're actually losing because of all this material that's gonna come out. And I'm just not sure that the 20 meters width is gonna be enough to feather the material in so that the surface water can actually get to the ditch. So that's covers the allowance end of it, or the right of way. The next one I got, that's the majority of it for the construction side of it. The next one I'm not sure about is the maintenance schedules for the next 50 years. Segment 1, which is downstream of 109, County 109, down into the, used to be Alice's place. Yeah, I don't know their names, but downstream of there. I have no problem paying for clean out there or doing maintenance down there. No problem whatsoever. Where I have the problem is we're paying 13.6% of the maintenance cost. And there's people upstream that have 250 acres going into it and they're paying 1%. We have 25 acres. We have this little piece of the pie and you've got other properties upstream because there's the sheet. I think the sheet's in with your package. Yeah. And there's other people, like I said, there's properties with 200 acres that are paying 2%. Our little 25 acres is paying 13%. And segment 2, which is through our place, we're paying 14%. And there again, there's all kinds of 100-acre parcels, 200-acre parcels, and whatever upstream. Why are we paying 14%? And some of them are paying 0.3 or point, like it's just all over the map. So that's the for the maintenance on the ditches. The next one is the maintenance on the crossings. Because down the road, we're going to pay 33% of the, once the construction's done, in my mind, any maintenance, it should be based on your acreage. 200 acres pays this much or so much an acre, whatever, for maintenance work. Because it's just routine maintenance work that has to be done. And if it's downstream of our place, absolutely, send the bill. But why are we paying 33% of the maintenance? Because I'll be honest with you, well, that culvert that's there now is a maintenance nightmare. 2 out of the 3 culverts are blocked solid right now. All the debris from trees and stuff upstream, they're blocked solid. And I'm not crawling down in 3 feet of water to get it cleaned out. So it needs to be cleaned out. And like I said, the water by acreage, our water that goes through those pipes is 0.18%. If it's 0.18% of our water, I really have trouble paying 33%. What else did I miss?
Just to clarify something. Hi, I'm Liz Felix. So Trevor made a comment that, and I'm sure you didn't mean it this way, but I just want to make sure that you all have context. He stated that we didn't want to pay, and I don't think that that's how you wanted it to come out. But I just want to make sure that everyone here understands, I don't have an issue with paying for the culvert. I don't. But I do have an issue with the price of it. Over the years, and this isn't just from us, but from other owners, we've experienced a significant amount of loss. We grow hay, and we've had summers where it's rained mid-season, and our entire crop, we could canoe in our hayfield, and then it's completely destroyed. All the silt from upstream is all on the hay, and there's nothing we can do with it. We can't use it, we can't sell it. All we can do is cut it and pay to have that cut, and it's not free. You have to pay to have it cut, and then you have to get rid of it. And this has been a yearly struggle since we've been here, and it'll be 13 years this year. And previous owners, the same thing, where they're losing. We on average go through about 2 to 3 loads of gravel per year because of washouts on our driveway, and it's in our hayfield. And then you rake it up and you put it back. And so I think, so that I'm just very clear with everyone that's here, while we're happy to contribute to the cost of the culvert, a lot of the issues that we've experienced on that property that prevents us from utilizing it to its capacity, that we should be able to use it, like all the other landowners are able to use their property, is because of their water coming in. If they didn't have the tile, their fields would not be as efficient. They wouldn't have the productivity that they enjoy today, that privilege of that productivity. But it's at other people's expense, in particular, our properties. And that's why we believe that upstream, or whoever, however this is decided, should pay more than what is currently being distributed. That's what I'm asking. And I don't know. He's the numbers man. And if anyone doesn't know, Jim is a drainage superintendent at Mapleton Township. Hence the reason why he's able to talk with you with some knowledge in terms of how he calculates things. So this is not his first rodeo by any means. Did you have?
No, the only other thing I add
Sorry,
is,
can I have to use the mic just because it's.
Oh.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You gotta share.
yeah, the only other thing I can add, and this is just from previous, and not every engineer writes reports the same way. The rule of thumb is on the bottom end of a drain is you pay 20 to 25% of the cost. The remainder is spread out over upstream. And I've gotten numbers over the years from different engineering firms dealing with drains. And that's generally the rule of thumb is 20/80 or 25/75. So just from past experience, that's something I do know. So, but I just have trouble seeing an assessment of $49,000 when you add up the total cost and the estimates for both crossings, it adds up to 44. And if we're paying 30% of the cost of the 44,000, I'll write you a check tomorrow. If we're paying it like, but to me, that's a fair number. So.
If, Trevor, if you could explain to me, just because the numbers that we were given and the numbers that you now have, they don't make sense to me. The numbers don't make sense. And if you could help me understand that, I would be grateful. Just where you got those numbers from.
Okay. I think I'm done.
All right,
I think-
thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'll take this off.
Trevor, so Skip, you please come to the mic. I think if you were writing, Jim has questions. You want to address them one at a time? Is that what you're thinking, or?
Sure, I can hopefully pick off, yeah, a number of those questions. So, yeah, I'll just go down my list of notes, and Liz, I will get into kind of where some of those numbers had come from. So the first comment was on the 1981 report on the insufficient outlet. If you go through that report, I definitely agree. Jim had pointed out that it does note that some farm lane culverts are in a poor state of repair and are undersized. The only point it makes about a sufficient outlet in my mind is the existing open ditch does not provide a sufficient outlet for some of the field tiles. And if you go through that report, part of the ditch work being done was basically there was one tile that was buried in silt, basically. So in my mind, the comment on sufficient outlet in the report is more in reference to that particular field tile. So anyway, that was just one point of clarification that doesn't take away at all that it does say some farm lane culverts are in a poor state of repair and undersized. It doesn't really make reference as to what culverts those are. As part of that report, it also proposes to replace one of the culverts. So anyway, that's just one point I'll make there. As far as the costs for the crossings, so the number that Jim had, the 44,000, one thing to note, I believe you had added the numbers right from our cost estimate. The one thing to note that there weren't any construction materials like granular A, clear stone. There's a portion of those costs that are also associated with all the crossings that aren't split specifically broken out per each crossing. So that's just one small difference. The other big thing I will note is there's no mention of the administration charge. So for a drainage project, a big perk to municipal drains is there is the 1/3 grant associated with the project. The downside to that is it needs to be under an engineer's report. So every construction cost that we have for the project, there is an associated administration cost, and maybe you might be able to pull up that table. I don't know if you're able to go back to the presentation. Yeah, that with that big map. Keep going. And then if you zoom in on, let's say, segment 2 in that table at the bottom. So yeah, and if you just follow me along, so segment number 2, it shows where that station starts, station 127 to 591. So for that segment's cost, there's a total $76,300 in construction costs. So like you were alluding to, Jim, a big chunk of that 44,000 would be the culverts. There'd also be an allotment for construction materials, plus the actual drain deepening and widening we're proposing. That's where you get that 76,300 number. There's also a contingency cost. So for each of these, we allot a certain amount of money for, there could be some costs that we're not expecting. So we always allot a chunk to different segments. There's also the allowances, which I'll touch on in a second here. And if you keep going to the right, you'll see the administration costs that are associated with the different segments. Typically, those are allocated more heavily to projects where there's more work being proposed and less to properties where there's less work being proposed. This property is certainly a larger share of the work is being completed on this particular segment. So the comment on the right-of-way allowance, so as a point of clarification, so right-of-way was paid at a 30,000 an acre rate, but that was just for the increase in footprint of the drain. So we're proposing widening the drain by about 1.5 meters. So that 1.5 meters width along where we're widening it, that was the amount of land that was paid out at $30,000 an acre, not for the whole. I think Jim was alluding to, the full 20-meter working space width. We typically wouldn't pay that at a full land value because that land's going to be usable after the spoil and whatnot's leveled and everything's restored. We're just looking at the increased footprint, so the actual widening of the channel. So that's my point of clarification for that. Yeah, so when we have to dig the channel down, we can't just go straight down, and then we can't just go straight down 2 feet, straight over or the width of the channel, then straight back up 2 feet, or else the channel is going to slump in. So we're going to actually come down at the one toe at an angle. We'll come down basically 2 feet. We'll dig the bottom we need to, but then we're going to actually have to pull the one bank out a little bit further. So the actual you know, if your top of bank's here right now, by the time you widen it, it's going to be over here kind of thing. So that chunk of land that's being consumed by that, that's paid at that right of way land value. And then it is, yes. So the only properties that have received that is, I believe, your property, the McPhail property, and I think at the very, very top end of the drain in segment 8, there's a little bit of widening we're proposing as well. So those are the only properties you'll see that have been given a right-of-way allowance. That 20-meter width, we give a damage allowance because that's the total land we're expecting to be disturbed as a result of the work. And yeah, I apologize, Jim. I guess I didn't really give you, I know we had spoke of it briefly before the consideration meeting. I told you about a 6-inch depth is what we're expecting. So the average cross-sectional area that we're expecting and pulling out is about, yeah, just for easy, yeah, 2.7 square meters is the average. So if you want the volume of material being removed, you just multiply 2.7 by the length. We're thinking over that 20-meter width, it basically works out to 6 inches on average of material that would need to be spread. So it was, and I don't disagree with you. You were saying it may be a foot or so more. You might level it a little bit more closer to the channel and a little bit thinner beyond, but on average it'd be about 6 inches, which is very common for leveling a spoil. As far as maintenance goes for the next 50 years, our methodology in how we decide who should pay what for maintenance, you know, I'm of the opinion that when we're doing this work, whenever you do maintenance, whenever we do this actual work, there is going to be an immediate impact for the property owners where this is happening. So in this particular case, in my mind, how Liz was explaining, you know, they have laneway flooding, they have, you know, their haze, that's causing them issue. When it gets flooded over the year, as soon as we do this work, those issues are going to be substantially improved. And in our mind, that just screams benefit to us. That's a huge benefit to the property. So that is why there has been a fairly healthy benefit assessment made against the property. We do feel like that's fair. In the same sense, for future maintenance, we would view that the same way. If there's maintenance done in the future, there is going to be, again, that immediate benefit when that maintenance is done. And we've done it for all the landowners along the drain. For future maintenance, there has been a premium assessed to those property owners depending on where the portion of maintenance is going. And I'd like to think of that almost as like, you know, in your insurance policy, when you have to pay, oh, what's the word? The deductible. Thank you. So if you have something where, you know, if landowners are able to request, okay, if I want something done, it's not going to cost me anything, they may as well do it all the time. But in our mind, for that maintenance for both the crossing as well as the channel, if they want something done bad enough, in this case, we thought the 13% or 14% on the Felix property, that was a fair chunk for them to contribute towards that maintenance work. It's still a small chunk, but it's a larger chunk than, you know, if we were doing this purely based on area, they'd be paying, say, 0.2%. So then it could really incentivize somebody to be like, oh, I want to do maintenance because it's really not going to cost me anything. Yeah, and the same goes for the crossings. So anyway, that was one comment I had for that. Yeah, I think, yeah, as far, and I guess my last comment would be on the rule of thumb of the 20 to 25% assessed to the landowner and then the rest upstream. I'm not aware of, I haven't seen any, I'm not saying that that's never been done as a way to assess out crossing costs. I haven't seen any examples. I know I spoke a little bit with Jim. I haven't seen any specific examples where that's been done. I've done many projects myself where the amount being assessed for the crossings is very similar to what's being assessed in this case, especially considering the fact that the property is receiving 2 crossings for this particular project. So, yeah, I think that hopefully addresses, yeah, those were the notes I had and I'm not sure, Liz, did I answer your question on how the costs were?
Yeah, so I have one quick question, Trevor. I
Yep.
was keeping notes as well, and you didn't say anything about the destroyed wheel. That just,
And I know Liz had expressed that to me as a concern for me. We can't really undo past wrongs
Sure.
as part of these projects. There's a lot of time where we're put in situations where, there's been issues that happen over the past. For me, we're always looking at this is a snapshot. This is what we're dealing with right now. And this is how we're going to address it, kind of looking forward as opposed to looking backwards. So yeah, we really haven't made any consideration for that as opposed to the that existing drain allowance that was provided for those plastic culverts. That's really the only sort of thing that considered things that happened in the past. And yeah, so anyway.
please go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks, Trevor. Excuse me, my throat's a little hoarse. Maybe I'm not clear enough, but can you explain to me the percentages again, just so it's clear in my head?
Like for the
Like for the-
crossing, specifically for the
the-
crossings?
Yeah, for the portion of I guess, costs and no crossing, right?
Right, so the crossings, 1/3 of the construction cost has been assessed directly to their property. The remaining 2/3 has been assessed to all the upstream lands. As the crossing as well, they're also assessed a direct administrative charge as part of that as well. In this case, it was $7,500 was what we had assessed that property. So that handles the crossing side. And then once the crossings and those direct costs are all dealt with, the remaining costs, all the general channel improvements and whatnot, again, those were divvied out. 1/3 were assessed as benefit costs. So again, those go to the properties in the vicinity of where the work is happening, and the remaining 2/3 again is assessed to all the outletting lands.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
I just wanted, can you hear me okay with this, like that?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted just to talk about the benefit. And so, yes, we will be receiving a benefit by not being flooded to the extent that we're being flooded right now. And yes, we'll receive a benefit because we'll be actually able to use the property without fear of losing anything midway through or losing our topsoil if we decided to do something different. But what I wanted to state was over the last, for just us, for the last 13 years, there was no benefit whatsoever. It was stress. It was loss, financial loss in hay, in gravel, in anxiety about whether or not the driveway, the culverts were going to hold, because there's been significant erosion that has occurred and it's been consistent. And we've been talking to the previous drainage superintendent, Dietrich Engineering, trying to get this resolved, and it wasn't moving whatsoever. And so I just wanted to highlight that, yes, there is a benefit, but what this report does not show is the degradation of the property, how much stress, how much financial loss that we've experienced. And we're a small farm. Like we're not like 200 acres and crash cropping, but it's still significant when you've got $16,000 of hay completely destroyed. Right? So I would really like that. I would love for you to take that into consideration when making your decision with regards to that. And I think that that's all that I wanted to kind of add from what Trevor was saying.
Is there any question? Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you, and this is for you and Jim, Elizabeth. So what exactly are you looking at cost-wise, or what's your?
I believe
what-
20%.
What would be your favorable outcome? Sorry.
I would believe 20% because when I'm trying to make the assessment with what Trevor has said, and if I do 33% of of 44,000. That's 14,000. But that's not our cost. Our cost is not 14,000. I believe that the property, I think it should be 20% based on what the property has gone through. Us in particular, I know other people, other owners that we've spoken to have had significant frustration with it. So I would ask that this council look at a 20% benefit as opposed to the 33% benefit.
Yeah, and then, so my next question would be, so then, so say we go down to the 13%, so who would pick up the 13%, the upstream from you guys?
I believe that that's fair because when you think about the water that's coming into the property that causes the erosion, like as Jim was saying, 2 of our culverts are blocked because we've got logs, like massive logs that are shoved up against there. And so that's not coming from our property. That's not us damaging it. And it's not like somebody's going out there and deliberately trying to do that. It's just the cost of farming. But we're being charged quite significantly for that, for the maintenance. And again, I don't think that this is where did you go? Okay. I don't think this is what you meant, but when he was talking about the maintenance as being, if it's a low cost maintenance, that because it's not our money that we'll want to have it maintained on a regular basis. I'm not going to sit there, every year thinking, oh, good, let's get it maintained. I think that in reality, it needs to be recognized that we're the terminal end of this drain, pretty much. There's 5,000 acres that are swimming through that culvert. And we're being asked to pay a significant portion of that. When I strongly feel that upstream, it's the privilege of other farmers. And I'm so glad that they have that privilege because they're making the food that we need to eat. But I don't want to shoulder that cost on our farm. I think that it should be fairly divvied up.
Other question? Thank you.
I apologize for my faulty memory. Who originally requested this drain be looked at?
I have no idea.
Right. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, I'll repeat that. Who originally requested that this drain be assessed? Was it just because it came up as being a problem, or was there?
No, it was
Landowner.
originally done, and Trevor would be able to answer this, but it was originally being maintained the previous year by another farm. And when they went to go fix that, I guess maintain that, that's when they realized the state of the drain. And then we were notified in February of last year that the drain was being done. And that's when we went in there and said, okay, if you're going to do something, you realize that we're the end of that drain and we're already being flooded now. So if you're going to open things up more, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Like, you need to fix that outlet. We are the outlet.
Okay,
So
somebody further up the drain.
yes,
For that.
yes.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there was some farms that wanted crossings put in.
Okay.
They were taking out their crossings. They wanted to put in bigger pipes,
Okay.
get rid of their water faster. Guess who was gonna, well, I find out that they were doing this, or it was in the works, the day before the meeting. And I thought, whoa, we have a problem here. Because that's the same thing was gonna happen again that happened in the 80s when they deepened the ditch, widened the ditch, put in bigger pipes. And I know the property owners that owned that property at that time, and they fought to have a bigger pipe put in that laneway, and they were told, nope, we ain't doing it. At that time, that property should have been paid injury and liability costs, and they were paid, it was paid nothing. So it was kind of pushed under the rug, or whatever you want to call it. Right? So there was 2 or 3 people upstream that wanted to put in new crossings.
Mhm.
And there again, they were taking, I don't know what the size of the pipes were, but I know they were going from one size of pipe to a bigger pipe. As soon as you put in a bigger pipe, water runs faster and more volume. And who's the one at the bottom end that's gonna get it?
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim. Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. I think this would be a question to the engineer then. So in just hearing this news, when you started off, you explained about benefits and outlets and how the costs break down. So if there were new crossings, would that not increase the outlet? Like, and exactly what Mr. Gross just explained about the water. will
if the,
be
yeah,
flowing
all these new crossings that are in the works and going in, that water is gonna come down a lot quicker. And the long and the short of it is, yes, Liz did sign the thing to have the culvert fixed. She didn't have to sign it. And that would have put a kibosh to all that work upstream unless they were gonna pay injury and liability to our property. Because you cannot take it to an insufficient outlet.
So my question for the engineer then would be, you had said that you try to strike a balance on how this is assessed type of thing. So was those calculations used of the new pipes being put in your assessment then?
So sorry, could you re-say that again?
With light of these new outlets that were put in upstream, and then as Mr. Gross was saying, that would enhance the water flow and more water being tiled off, like drained off on the fields. So when you said that you look at benefits and outlets and you look at contribute the water to the system and you strike a balance on how this is balanced.
Mhm.
So was that taken into consideration in the assessments?
Yeah, I guess, so generally speaking, yeah, anybody who's received a crossing on the project, like they have received a benefit assessment for that. As far as, you know, the water getting there quicker, it really depends on kind of the situation. So there were some cases here where there were spots where there was no crossing at all to begin with, and we put in a new crossing. In a situation like that, the crossing actually has less capacity than what that existing open ditch was. It actually would slow the water down slightly. But anyway, it's all kind of situational in that sense. Before this project, maybe to provide clarification, we had our original meeting in February. It was clear to us that there were some crossings that were wanted on the drain. And at that original meeting, I believe it was in February, we basically put out a pitch to everybody along the drain. We said, hey, we're doing these crossings. Do you have the need for a crossing? And then anybody who was willing to submit in writing that they wanted a crossing improvement or a new crossing, we basically looked at that and we made it as part of our report. So anyway, I don't know if I've fully answered your question. Your question was, were the benefits considered for the other property? For the other property owners when the when that crossing was put in, I guess yeah, essentially the short answer is yes. Anybody who's received a crossing on this project, they've received benefit, like similar to how we've been consistent across the different landowners, and similarly for all the outletting landowners. Again, I think to, you know, the Wellington North people, you know, this is a 10-kilometer stretch of drain. So there's a 100-acre property at the top end of Wellington North. They're getting assessed about $10,000 in outlet only. So for them, they're actually going to see absolutely nothing out of this project. They're just paying just for their water to be able to go away. And that's where you're trying to strike that balance of, you know, we could push more to outlet, but then, you know, maybe that person's paying a little bit more, but they should still pay a portion of the share. So it's, what's that right balance? So what we got in our report, we think is fair. So yeah, I maybe leave it at that.
Go ahead.
If I could just clarify, but I think I understood, and maybe Lori did too, that the previous drains had been done as a part of previous work on the drain. This is all one complete project.
Yeah,
And
correct.
was there a person who requested this project, or was it just a general condition of the land in the area and it came up for, like they do?
Do you want to?
Yeah, I
ahead,
can
Ryan.
definitely feel that. Yeah, so originally there's requests for maintenance on this drain. And as I set up the maintenance and talked to the landowners, it became more evident that people wanted things that were outside of what I could give them in maintenance, which
Okay.
initiated the project. I think it was actually the Terry Ross property was maybe the first one to sign. And as soon as one person signs, we opened up to the entire drain because
Sure, because it's going to affect everybody.
exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think I have a better understanding now. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to state that the allowances, we're talking, they're outside the Court of Revision jurisdiction. And so we do have what Jim and Liz want, what they're requesting, what they're requesting. Haven't determined how much, and we've not determined who pays. So we'll go on to the next.
I think now.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so we do have one verbal appeal. And in order to hear that, we need to make a motion that we're going to.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second, all in favor of the motion? Okay, that's carried. So we have Mr. Cronk. You're up, sir. Welcome.
Well, hi, I'm Devin Pronk. Here just speaking on behalf of my dad Marty today, as he's absent. Not much to bring up here. He just sent me some notes, mostly regarding our cost and neighboring cost. Here, what he says is he has I have a discrepancy with the current construction assessments as it pertains to municipal drain number 3. I think the Schneider farm that's directly to the east of us at a roll number of 4-102 that has an affected area of 216.7 acres. And he has came up with a final assessment of $2,540. Earl Schneider's 216.7 acres runs into a 2-foot municipal that runs through our property, eventually ends up at drain number 3. We see a problem every spring that the water runs over top of the drain and through our land, causing washout and flooding before it even reaches drain number 3. This also adds the problem for Liz Felix, making it worse. He's currently assessed at approximately $12 per workable acre, and he is one of the highest acreages that feeds into the whole assessment. And I think this should be reevaluated as part of the assessment needs to be increased 40 times. That's on behalf of my dad.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to respond to that, Trevor?
Yeah, so a couple things at play there. I think, yeah, no doubt it's a large acreage, 250 acres. I think it's one of the biggest. There might be a larger one in Wellington North. Big factor that's making their costs be less is they're removed from drain 3. They don't actually touch it. At any point, their land all comes in very similar to the segment 1 and segment 2. So anything beyond segments 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, they don't pay anything towards that because their land is already all contributed. I believe that is. Yeah, and they may have some costs in segment 3. I'd have to look back at our notes, but anyway, they come out fairly early into the drain. Kind of the issue with washout and whatnot in the water flowing over land. In my mind, that's more of a drain. So that 2-foot concrete pipe is drain 92. To me, I would view that more as a problem with drain 92 rather than an issue with drain 3. So if that's causing issues, in my mind, if you would improve that drain 92, then they would certainly be on the hook for a very good chunk of the cost. But for the work we're proposing right now, we felt that even though it's a large acreage, considering where they are in the watershed and that they're removed from the drain, that was an appropriate assessment. So that's all I have to say on that.
Trevor, you do this for a living. You obviously have seen this before, putting in crossings, upsizing crossings, and what you're telling us is think that these numbers are all fair.
That's really our job. We got to come up with something that we can stand behind. I can stand up here and be like, we stand and we look at these assessments for hours and hours. And those spreadsheets you can see, they don't make themselves, unfortunately. So we put a great deal of time and effort into coming up to what we think is fair and what we think we can justify. Yeah, that being said, with the meeting today, the court does have the ability to make adjustments if they want, but what we have on the screen is what we feel is fair, so.
Okay, so is there any other questions? No. Okay, if not, then we're gonna take a recess and go into that little room in there and debate, have a quick debate. I think so.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting, you guys. I'm thinking it took a little bit longer than what we thought, but we had a lot of information to go over, and we have come to a decision, so just going to call the court of revision back to order. And I'll ask our clerk to give our decision.
Thank you, Chair. As the appeal number 1, appellant Liz and Janet Felix, property part lot 97, concession C. The decision of the Court of Revision is the appeal is dismissed and the assessment for drain 3 is accepted as presented. For the verbal appeal number 2, appellant Marty and Joanne Pronk, property part lot 97, part lot 96, concession C. The appeal is dismissed and the assessment for drain 3 is accepted as presented. There are further appeal rights if dissatisfied with the decisions of the Court of Revision, which were pronounced on the 20th day of January 2026. Anyone may appeal the decision to the Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of the municipality within 21 days of the date of this decision.
Okay, so the Court of Revision decision. All parties to the drain will receive written notice of the Court of Revision decision, which will contain additional information on the process to appeal the decision of the Court of Revision to the Ontario Drainage Tribunal. We're on with that. Okay, and so if there's no further questions, I'm going to adjourn the Court of Revision. I want to thank you folks for coming and helping us out today. And we'll get back to our regular business.
Nice to see you.
We just leave that.
Yep.
It was set for 7.
Fun. Got a big agenda tonight? Hey, big agenda, this budget?
Dave, would you mind taking that out into the hall, please? Thank you. Appreciate it. No, just, okay. All right, so we're going to continue with our meeting. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Town of Minto Court of Revision convenes into the committee of the whole. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. We have no public meeting today. We have no delegations, but we do have public question period. Anybody has anything to share with us? Please attend the mic. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead to correspondence. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz. The council received the correspondence as information. Unless there's any that anyone wants to pull out. Hearing none, I'm gonna call the question on the correspondence. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. So we're gonna move into, reports. I'm gonna, committee minutes for approval. We have the DEI, committee minutes, and I'm gonna ask, Linda Wick Graham to report on this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So these are the minutes from our January 15th meeting last week. The DEI committee is off to a quick start, already working on a number of initiatives that are identified in the action plan, but just a quick highlight of dates. Minto Pride is doing their drag bingo upcoming February 13th. The Black Heritage Month event is taking place the same day as Coldest Night of the Year on February 28th. We have a clothing swap for spring summer taking place May 9th in Clifford at the Hall. Pride in the Park will be June 7th. We have DEI films booked possibly in February and for sure in April. We also have a signage project underway, as well as continued work on our pantries, thanks to Dave and Jean. And then Quinn and I have been working on a municipal policy review. So lots underway already. Special shout out to Tammy, who's been helping this committee, especially around our social media and our Did You Know social media post series, which is designed to educate the community on all the work that DEI committee does do work on. And then last but not least, we had resignations from our co-chair, Brittany Rise and Ahmad Alhamad. Both just cited being really busy with their personal lives, willing to contribute time as needed, but not to sit on the committee. So we are in the process of recruiting some new members. And that is it. If there's any questions?
Questions for Belinda? I'll read the resolution first. Moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. Council received the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee minutes of January 15th, 2026 and approves any recommendations contained therein. Questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to County of Wellington Emergency Management Program Committee update. In Inter-Council Chambers today, we have Linda Dixon, and I'm thinking that
It's green, you're
I talked to Linda a few minutes ago, and I think she said that she's not been in this council chambers for 4 to 5 years because of retirement, something like that. So Linda, welcome and thank you for taking on this project for a few years. 1 year. Why don't you share your story? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Turton, members of Minto Council. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Good to see so many familiar faces again. And yes, it's been quite a while since I've been before this council. I won't take too much of your time because I know you've had a busy afternoon so far. But what I have before you is a report dealing with the town's Emergency Management Program Committee. As a requirement under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, municipalities are required to appoint a program committee. Essentially, the program committee is responsible for the development, review, enhancement of your emergency management program on a yearly basis. And we work as a CMC and our staff, we work with your program committee, of course, to lay out your plans for the year. And we'll have one coming up, I think it's sometime in March this year. We've got one already set. So the purpose essentially was when we were going through and we were setting our meetings for our program committee, we noticed that some of the current titles that we have on file in the recommendation from 2024 are now different than what is in place within the town of Minto today. And that's a requirement of the legislation, regulations, standards, that there is some agreement on position and who sits on the committee. So all we're trying to do is just some housekeeping, clean that up. Essentially, some of the names have changed, but we had Public Works under there, I think is probably the biggest change. And instead of Public Works, we've now added Roads and Drainage Manager, Water Manager, and Wastewater Manager to the committee. So that's essentially the big changes we've made this year or are proposing to make this year in 2026. I think that's it. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer
We
them.
have a resolution moved by Council Gentleman, seconded by Council Elliott. And it's a long one. It's, Council Town of Minto hereby receives a report, Emergency Management Program Committee update prepared by the Emergency Manager, CEMC, for information purposes. And further that, Council Town of Minto approves the following appointments of the Emergency Management Program Committee for 2026. Members of council, mayor, senior municipal staff representative, CAO, deputy clerk, roads and drainage manager, water manager, wastewater manager, treasurer, director of community services, fire chief, Wellington OPP inspector or staff sergeants, Wolf Wellington paramedic services, chief, acting chief supervisor, Wellington Dufferin public health, health and safety coordinator, and municipal emergency management program coordinator, emergency manager, and other persons or agencies, representatives that may be appointed by council from time to time who are involved in emergency management. And further, that Council Town of Minto designates authority to the committee to appoint the CAO, deputy clerk, or chair on behalf of their members. Further, that the Emergency Management Program Committee is responsible for advising council on the development and implementation of the Town of Minto's Emergency Management Program. And finally, further to that, CEMC, on behalf of the Emergency Management Program Committee, shall provide council with an annual report on the status of the Town of Minto's Emergency Management Program for their review, consideration, and approval. Questions? Hearing none. Thank you for
Thank you.
staying with us in the drainage meeting today. I'm sure you learned as much as the rest of us did. So,
I did. It was good. Thank you.
good luck to you, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for coming out.
And again, good to see everyone. Thank you.
Drive careful. We're moving along to Plan 2026. Did I call the question? All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. And number 2 here is Plan 2026-001, B78 /25 2626514 Ontario Limited. It's a Severance Urban Residential 302 Jane Street, Palmerston. And I'll ask Sama to enlighten us on this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. This report is for consent application B78-25 for a residential severance at 302 Jane Street, Palmerston, which is currently under consideration by the County of Wellington Land Division Committee. The proposal is create a new residential lot for approximately 750 square meters, or about 8,073 square feet, with 12.5 meters or 41 feet of frontage on Jane Street within the urban boundary of Palmerston. This new lot is intended for a residential duplex. The retained parcel would be approximately 790 square meters or about 8,504 square feet, with 13.2 meters or 43.3 feet of frontage on Jane Street, and currently contains a detached dwelling and a garage. The property is zoned medium density residential and designated residential in the official plan. The proposal meets the requirements of zoning bylaw amendment, official plan, and provisional policy statement for the creation of new residential lot within urban boundaries. And town staff recommend that council support the application and that the county's land division committee approve it, subject to the 6 conditions outlined in the staff report. These include the usual standard conditions such as ensuring all accounts are in good standing, confirming satisfactory access, and obtaining an interest permit from the road authority. And the public works also noted that a grading, drainage, and servicing plan must be submitted for the new lot, and that the right-of-way works will be required for the development of both the severed and retained parcels, and that a municipal servicing permit must be obtained. And the final condition is about the relocation of the existing driveway to the retained parcel. I will be happy to answer any question you may have.
So we have the motion, it's moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Potnowitz, Councillor Minto. Recommend the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approve the consent agenda, consent application B 7825 2626514 Ontario Limited for land legally described as Lot 53, Part Lot 54, Caswell and Clements Survey with the municipal address of 300 Bolton Street, Palmerston, in the town of Minto, and the following conditions be considered. And there are 6 conditions. They're fairly standard.
Yes, most of them are standard, but we have 3 conditions from Public Works. I mentioned that.
Okay. Questions? Fairly standard, separate.
Yes, it is.
And I know that we've seen this before.
Yeah, we have.
So if there's no question, I'm going to call a question. All in favor of that motion on the severance? That's carried. Thank you. I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Gunson.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So Public Works, we got 3 reports today, and the first 2 are going to be presented by Mike Doucette. So go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. The first one is going to be the 2025 DWQMS External Audit Report. So the external audit was completed on October 1st remotely by Intertech SAI Global. There were no non-conformances and no opportunities for improvement identified. The external audit in 2026 will be a 2-day on-site reaccreditation audit for our certificate in accreditation. That's it for that one. Very short and sweet.
Thanks, Mike. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, second by Councillor Dirksen. That the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2026-001 2025 DWQMS External Audit Outcome prepared by the QMS representative for information purposes. And further that the Council of the Town of Minto approves and endorses the 2025 DWQMS External Audit Outcome Report as presented. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, that's passed. Second one is the 2025 DWQMS Management Review. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. So the 2025 management review was presented to the committee on December 10th, 2025. Our municipal inspection and scores for this year were Clifford 92.86, Harrison 94.64, Palmerston 95.21, Minto Pines 92.64. These ratings varied. A couple issues that we had in 2025. We had an equipment failure out at Minto Pines and a sampling mix-up that covered all 4 of our systems. We had 1 AWQI during the 2025 year. Just collect our adverse TC hit during normal routine sampling. 3 samples came back all good, all clear. Flows are kind of projected to be on very similar to 2024. And arsenic continues to be sampled quarterly up in Clifford. And this year we had to submit the application and submission paperwork and documentation for our municipal drinking water license and drinking water works permit renewals. That deadline was November 25th. All information was submitted to the ministry on November 17th, with the exception of the financial plan, which was not approved by council at that point in time. It was approved on December 2nd, 2025, and was submitted as the last part of the required documentation to the ministry on December 3rd. And new well exploration continues in Harrison and Palmerston. That is it.
Thanks, Mike. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott. That the council of the town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2026-002, 2025 DWQMS Management Review, and the Management Review Meeting Outcome Report prepared by the QMS representative for information purposes. And further, that the council of the town of Minto approves and endorses the 2025 DWQMS Management Review and the Management Review Meeting Outcome Reports as presented. Any questions for Mike? Mayor Turton.
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Chair. These numbers that you're throwing at us are pretty darn good. And we want you to know that we certainly appreciate all the work that you do. You keep us safe. And I know that our ratepayers feel the same. And I know that I've listened to complaints about chlorine. We don't make the rules. We're just a messenger.
Yep.
And so let the boys and girls know that we appreciate what they're doing and keep up the good work.
Yep, I'll be happy to pass that along. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Third one, municipal drain number 95 tender results. Ryan, you want to present it?
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. Yeah, so council may recall Drain 95 moving through the Drainage Act process in 2025. It was completed, the report was completed by RJ Burnside and Associates. A little background on the drain. The drain consists of basically installation of roughly 2,000 meters of concrete tile and HDPE tile. Has 6 concrete structures, 1 engineered berm, 1 directional berm, surface water inlet, 336 meters of channel deepening, still in basin, rock flow check dams. This is all fairly standard stuff. 1 branch drain. And yeah, so we issued this out for tender recently, and I'm here to, this table on the report displays the results. All bids were received prior to the tender closing deadline and in consultation with the appointed engineer, RJ Burnside and Associates. The 3 lowest bids were reviewed for mathematical errors and omissions. No errors were found, and we are recommending that Hannah and Hamilton Construction Co. be awarded the contract. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Ryan. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Podnowitz, second by Councillor Zimmerman. That the council of the town of Minto receives report PW 2026-003 regarding municipal drain number 95 RFT results. And further, that the council of the town of Minto awards the contract to Hannah and Hamilton Construction Company Limited for the total tender price of $266,358, excluding HST. Any questions for Ryan? Councillor Podnowitz.
Through you, Chair. What was the engineer's estimated cost for this project?
It was in the vicinity of 310,000. So it was roughly 17% lower than the estimate.
Any other questions? Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So all the farmers, the landowners are all happy with this. I know that we've had a bit of a run on drains lately. And I know that we've had the landowners here in the council chambers, but everybody's happy. Right.
Yeah. I mean, as happy as they can be. I think 17% lower than the estimated cost should make some people smile, but yeah, I can't speak for them, but.
Any other questions? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. I'm going to pass the chair back to Mayor Turk.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. Next item on the agenda. Got a tandem team here presenting Clerk 2025-001. It's the Strategic People Plan, the SPP. And we have Quinn and Nicole presenting.
Yeah, and it's like 10 to 5. And I have so much information to get through, but I'm going to try and speak really quick. Okay. Really fast. All right. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we are here today to introduce the Town of Minto Strategic People Plan, which is designed to guide our workforce priorities for 2026 and beyond. The plan is closely aligned with our 2024 to 2028 strategic plan, ensuring our organizational goals support the broader vision for the community. It's grounded in staff survey insights and prioritizes strong employee engagement to enhance service delivery. The plan focuses on building a supportive, people-centered workplace culture, one that recognizes employee contributions and invests in their continued growth and success. So the staff survey that we completed in February, I believe, of last year highlighted 4 key themes that shape the employee experience here. So our employees are looking for clearer and more motivating communication from leadership to strengthen trust and alignment. They expressed a strong desire for more targeted training and flexible learning opportunities to support their professional growth. There were some concerns about workload and burnout, which reinforced the need to enhance wellness and mental health supports across the organization. And finally, staff identified opportunities to streamline processes and modernize technology to improve efficiency and job satisfaction. So the staff survey results highlighted several strengths within our organization. Employees showed a high level of pride in the town of Minto, reflected in a strong score of 4.30 out of 5. Role clarity also stands out as a positive, with staff indicating that they understand their responsibilities well, which scored a 4.27. And additionally, the survey shows that employees view the organization's workplace reputation and development opportunities favorably, scoring a 4.09. At the same time, the survey identified clear opportunities for improvement. Employees expressed a desire for more defined career development pathways to better support growth and retention. They also pointed to the need for greater consistency and clarity in our performance reviews, and optimizing the benefits program to better align with employee needs also emerged as an important area that we can enhance. So none of our survey scores fell below 3.0, which is really good. However, the qualitative comments do reinforce these opportunities that I've mentioned. The SWOT analysis that we did highlights several key opportunities to strengthen our workplace. So staff expressed a growing need for more relevant training, leadership development, and clearer advancement pathways. Improving communication also stands out as an opportunity to build greater transparency and collaboration. And employees showed interest in personalized recognition and flexible work options to boost morale and retention. At the same time, the analysis does point to some notable threats. Some dissatisfaction around role clarity and compensation may impact engagement, and concerns about stress and burnout emphasize the need for stronger wellness and workload management supports. Overall, focusing on enhanced training, communication, and leadership development while addressing risks related to clarity and well-being will help reinforce a supportive and productive workplace culture. So you might notice that one of the themes that stood out in the survey was role clarity, and it actually shows up in 2 different places. On the strength side, employees told us that when expectations are clear, both within their own role and across departments, they feel more confident, better able to prioritize, and less likely to encounter confusion. However, it also appears as a potential threat because staff emphasize that flexibility, collaboration, and cross-departmental support are very important in an organization that is as small as ours. And when we over-define our roles, we risk creating silos and discouraging people from helping outside of their formal responsibilities or outside of their department, which is essential to how we operate, being such a small team. So while defining our roles more clearly will absolutely help address several key survey themes, we also need to protect the collaborative, adaptable approach that our staff rely on.
The Town of Minto's strategic pillars outline the core areas that will guide our organization priorities moving forward. Strengthening leadership development remains a key focus, ensuring staff feel supported through visible, effective leadership and growth opportunities. At the same time, recruitment and retention efforts aim to attract and keep talent by fostering a supportive and appealing work environment. Building engagement in a positive workplace culture is another central pillar, emphasizing recognition, inclusion, and alignment with our mission. Continuous learning is supported through enhanced training and development opportunities that contribute to both individual and organizational growth. Fair compensation and flexible benefits from the foundation of our total rewards approach, reflecting our commitment to valuing employees. Finally, our focus on service, performance, health and safety, and wellness reinforces accountability, service excellence, and employee well-being. Together, these pillars demonstrate our commitment to both our workforce and the community we serve. Under the leadership, we have enhancing organizational excellence starts with a strong leadership communication. To build transparency, we will introduce biannual town halls and structured communication calendar. Leadership development will be supported through quarterly workshops and a new leadership interest program to grow future leaders. We will also strengthen performance practices by updating evaluations to include leadership competencies and conducting annual surveys. Together, these initiatives aim to build trust, clarity, and more effective leadership across the organization. Attracting top talent being with strengthening our employee brand. By using targeted social media campaigns and showcasing our workplace culture, we can better highlight what makes the town of Minto a great place to work. A structured onboarding process with mentorship support and clear career paths will help new employees feel welcomed and understand their growth potential from day one. Retention remains equally important. Through stay interviews, exit interviews, and transparent compensation practices, we can better understand employee needs and respond proactively to support their long-term success. Together, these strategies reinforce our commitment to sustainable growth and economic development by ensuring we attract and retain the talent needed to deliver strong municipal services and drive continued progress.
So to strengthen engagement and workplace culture, we're focusing on 3 key areas. First, we're enhancing culture and recognition by promoting peer-to-peer appreciation and team-led initiatives that contribute to a positive and supportive environment. We're improving communication through transparent feedback opportunities and inclusive culture workshops, ensuring employees feel heard and valued. And finally, we're building community by organizing interdepartmental events, supporting shared interest groups, and offering branded apparel to foster pride and connection across the organization. These initiatives aim to create a welcoming, collaborative workplace where employees feel a strong sense of belonging. Training and development is a key driver of any organization's success. We're committed to continuous learning by offering accessible, customized training that supports internal mobility and empowers employees to grow in their roles. Developing future leaders remains a priority, supported through mentorship and targeted programs that strengthen our overall capabilities and prepare us for emerging challenges. By aligning learning efforts with performance goals, we ensure meaningful results and can better anticipate future skill needs. And finally, we are committed to fostering a safe and healthy workplace by strengthening our safety culture, promoting wellness, and improving our physical work environment. This includes offering safety workshops, ergonomic assessments, and workload evaluations to reduce risks and support staff in their daily work. We prioritize psychological safety through mental health resources, management training, and accessible support programs that help employees feel secure and supported. Additionally, enhancing our physical spaces with improved safety features, comfortable work areas, and opportunities for active living contributes to a healthier and more engaging workplace.
As we continue to strengthen our organizational effectiveness, we are focused on clarifying expectations and reinforcing accountability so that every employee understands their role and the service standards we uphold. We are modernizing our systems by implementing a new HR information system, so an HRIS, that will provide data-driven insights and support more informed decision-making. We are also enhancing performance management by shifting towards development-focused reviews, linking recognition to meaningful outcomes, and equipping managers with strong coaching skills. Together, these improvements will elevate our service delivery and reinforce high standards of governance and performance across the organization. Under compensation and total rewards, fair and competitive compensation is essential for supporting employee satisfaction and long-term retention. In 2025, we made meaningful progress by updating are benchmarking practices and implementing competitive pay adjustments supported by transparent communication to strengthen trust and fairness. We also began expanding and personalizing our benefits to better meet diverse employee needs and introduce flexible reward options, such as spending accounts to support a variety of lifestyles. While these steps have laid a strong foundation, there is still more work to do. Continued refinement for our benefits, ongoing evaluation of market competitiveness, and further expansion of flexible rewards will ensure our total rewards program continues to evolve with our workforce. Together, these ongoing efforts position the town of Minto as an attractive employer and support a motivated, engaged workforce aligned with our long-term goals for sustainable growth. We're introducing a phased 3-year plan, 2026 to 2028, to ensure steady, sustainable progress. Each phase builds on the work completed in the previous year, with targeted action items designed to align closely with our strategic goals and deliver meaningful impact. Ongoing monitoring will be essential. Regular feedback loops will help us adjust as our organizational needs evolve, ensuring the plan remains flexible and responsive. Transparency and accountability will also guide the process, supported by consistent progress reporting to both council and staff to maintain trust and keep everyone informed. Together, these steps provide a clear, structured path forward and help move us toward a long-term strategic vision with confidence and purpose.
So as we move into 2026, council endorsement will be essential to ensure that we have the resources and collaboration needed to advance these strategic goals. Progress will be measured across key areas, including engagement, leadership development, retention, recruitment, wellness, safety, and overall performance to provide a comprehensive view of the impact of this plan. Regular updates and feedback loops with council will support continuous improvement and allow us to refine strategies as needs evolve. But with council's support, we can create meaningful outcomes and strengthen the organization for the years and the challenges ahead. And we are here to answer any questions.
We have a motion moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report CL 2026-001, 2026 to 2028 Strategic People Plan, prepared by the Deputy Clerk Manager, People and Culture for information. And further, Council of Town of Minto endorses and adopts the plan as written. Questions for? Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I think it's great. I really like the idea.
Okay, sorry, can I just have you put your microphone down?
I like the idea of staff being engaged and improving themselves and given the opportunity of doing that. But there's many staff or many people that just like being the way they are and do not want to move into a supervisory position, or they enjoy the job they're doing, other than, you know, I mean, we need to improve as things change for themselves, but not everyone wants to be a supervisor. Not everyone wants to move to that extra level. Does that approach those kind of people too? I maybe missed that when I was looking through it.
Yeah, so basically the idea in terms of leadership is that we would have like a leadership interest program. So you could let us know if you were interested in that training. But most of the stuff that we would provide in terms of training and that sort of stuff would be voluntary. We definitely wouldn't make anybody participate in anything. But even the people who just want to show up every day and do their jobs sometimes feel disengaged. So we are trying to sort of bring them back in with the, you know, we do the food trucks and the Christmas lunch, and just to try and bring them sort of into the fold and into the community, regardless of whether they are looking for advancement or they're just looking to show up every day. We do see those comments in our performance reviews. We've tried to encourage people to set goals, and some people's goals are just to be here every day.
Not their interest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Gunson.
Thanks, Mayor Turton. Just a question on the staff survey. So more specifically, the burnout and the workload. So is that coming from specific departments, or is that just across the board from various departments?
So for this particular survey, we didn't ask which department they were in just because we wanted them to be as honest as possible. But the comment did come through quite a few times. So I can assume from that that it is across a few different departments, and some of it's seasonal too. Like the roads guys are probably feeling more burnout right now than they would in the summertime, whereas economic development might feel that more in the summer when they've got events every weekend. So sometimes it depends on what time of the year that you're doing the survey, but it did seem to be a decent chunk of people that were
I
experiencing
just
that.
didn't know if it would lead to like a department that's understaffed, that group is more concerned about burnout. But no, that's good.
Councillor Podovitz, go ahead, sir.
Through you, Mayor Turton. Let me just read through here. I didn't see anywhere where you mentioned any, what's the word I'm looking for? Succession planning. Was there any mention of that or discussion of that in this document at all?
There is, I don't know which pillar it's in, maybe leadership, but we are looking in either 2026 or 2027 to develop formal succession plans. You know, there are a number of departments where you can kind of see they're headed in that direction, but there are also some that have never even probably put any thought into it. But that is one of the things that we are currently working on. And I know there are other municipalities in the area that are working on that sort of formal thing too. So I'm trying to collaborate with a couple of different ones to come up with a form or a program to make that happen.
It was mentioned in one of the staff and the.
It's under
questionnaire.
leadership development programs. Right, last sentence, formalized succession planning for key roles. Slide 7.
Other questions? Councillor Dirksen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I also think this is great. Did you put this together? I'm quite impressed with that. This is the kind of stuff that consultants put together. Probably sell this. But anyways, yeah, I think it's really well done, and yeah, if there's any holes in it, I would hope that staff would point that out. But I don't know how they could be, but we're not a staff person either. So if there are any holes in it, though, is it a living document? Like, can you update it? Is there a plan to update it?
Yeah, so what I would like to do, the survey that we did last year had like 40 questions, and I did get a decent number of people to do it. I think we were over 80%, but I also got a lot of complaints about how long it took. So moving forward, I would like to do annual or biannual surveys just to see how staff feel about the things that are being completed, and then to see if there's anything else that's come up for them as we begin to do things. And then again, like the strategic plan, and that we would update it in a few years as things evolve and change. But
Oh, that's great. I think it's a great document.
thank you.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Yeah, very well done. But just a suggestion, being somebody who works in a bigger organization and they do these kinds of things all the time, I wonder about we do things that we think staff will appreciate. Maybe do a scoring thing to find out what they really do appreciate versus what we think they appreciate. Because sometimes we're not on the same page. Because I know we get things and, you know, they give us pins, and we'll take that money and put it back into a safety net for us or whatever. Just a suggestion.
So a lot of this had to do with the survey. Yeah, I like it too. It's very well done. So a living document, it means it's not going to get dusty. So I'm sure there's some of your ideas here came out of the strategic plan as well. Good. I think it's really nice. Any other comments? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the strategic people plan? That's carried. And I'll pass the chair. Thank you very much, you guys. Good work. Pass the chair to Councillor Dirks. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. And we have 2 items on the finance agenda this evening now. And I'm going to turn it back to Treasurer Duff. Well, it sort of slipped out. To take us through the first report.
Great. Great. Thanks, Chair Dirksen. So this is another and probably will be a continuing series of reports regarding the downtown Palmerston project. So the Roads Committee of the County of Wellington met on January 13th, and they completed their review of the tenders that came in. I know my mayor, I think, was in attendance, and there was a very good response. Again, staff from the town of Minto and the county of Wellington held another kind of Zoom meeting just to make sure everything's moving ahead. They requested an endorsement from the council of the town of Minto in the recommendation of the roads committee, which will go to the county council committee on January 29th. And I'll probably have a further report on February 3rd once the tender has been officially awarded. Again, I'm sure you're very aware this is a complex project because we have the two jurisdictions and the two grant funding programs. However, the county is taking the lead on administering the contract and the project. So the recommendation is to endorse the recommendation of the county roads department for their tender award. And again, it's like us when we have a committee recommendation, it doesn't get formally approved until you approve it. County's the same thing, but if you approve this report, that will go in as their consideration for the January 29th county council meeting. But happy to take any questions that I can answer.
Are there any questions? I have a question. It must be burning in your minds. I can't imagine nobody has any questions. We're receiving this report for information, but it seems like it's really low on information.
Is it a little vague? Perhaps.
It's really vague. Usually when a committee recommends something to us, the details are, the committee knows the details.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I
So anyway.
perfectly know what you mean.
And so I guess I'm just looking at this and thinking, yeah, okay, we can do this, but they should have known that we would support this, whatever
Yes.
this is, right? Because we don't know what it is.
I think I'll throw to our mayor on that question.
So-
Mayor, do you have a question? No,
I
do you have a
do.
comment maybe?
This
Question?
is likely the biggest project the town's ever been involved with. There's quite a good report on the county council roads committee meeting. I can extract that and send it out to everybody if you want. I know the firm that got the job were lowest bidder and they scored the best. So they did a selection matrix on it, and I'm very pleased that we've worked with this local firm for numerous times now, and we're pleased that they got the job. And with Gord being on the team, I'm sure finances and everything will be tip top. So if you want to, I can send that. It's a little more in depth. Some of the quotes are on it. Okay.
We're walking a fine line between giving you information and not scooping county council. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, that is fair enough. I'm gonna read the recommendation. Let me just make sure I got the right one here. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives Report Finance 2026-003, reconstruction of downtown Palmerston preliminary tender prepared by the treasurer for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto endorses the recommendation of the County of Wellington Roads Committee regarding the awarding of the construction tender for the reconstruction of Main Street, Palmerston. Anybody have any more questions or comments?
Just one more quick comment, and I know that there has been dialogue with the business in Palmerston and the citizens. We've had a couple of meetings, and it's out there. I've personally attended a couple of Lions meetings and taken the drawings over, and a lot of people have looked at them. So certainly seriously hoping that if there is questions still out there, our friends will know who to call. So,
And just to be clear, I have complete faith, in the county doing this process. It just was an interesting report.
well, and so I guess the thing is, we've got Triton, who is our engineer, and Chris Clark and Jeremy Gibson are two guys who are around helping with our last two projects. So we have some.
Yeah, some
Good
continuity.
people.
We have some experience with this kind
Yeah,
of.
but I mean, it's open dialogue. If there's questions out there, they need to come forward.
Yep.
Because we have nothing to hide, and I know the detours aren't going to be easy. It's a big, big project.
Things have to get worse before they get better,
Yeah.
So,
as in most construction.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Podowitz.
Yes, through you, Chair. So who do people call if there's questions? Like, is the county taking the lead on this? And should they be calling the county? If they're like for timelines or any kind of question like that.
Oh, sorry.
CO Ferguson.
Through Mr. Mayor to Madam Chair, to Councilor Podnowitz. We do have on our website the drawings, the kind of the updated schedule to date. There'll be more detail and more meetings for the public and the businesses starting in the spring. I believe it's April we're talking about. So more of those details will come. We just have to go through this fine line process just to make sure that all our T's are crossed and I's are dotted from the legal and risk perspective. So I do again, apologize for the lack of detail, but it's done that way for a reason. But soon it will be revealed. Should be revealed next week, I believe.
Yeah, county council meetings next Thursday night, next Thursday, and it'll be finalized.
Councilor Elliott.
Important, you can always get great answers on Facebook.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yes, of course. I
For
don't know why I
sure.
didn't think of that. Okay, so I have read the recommendation. I'm ready to call the vote if there's no more questions. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So I'm just wondering, it'll get past the county council. Will there then be a report back to us revealing the details of the agreement?
Yes, there will, because part of the grant that we do, the HUSIF grant, which is basically the water ones, approval of the tender is a milestone in grant speak, and that means it will advance some money to the town of Minto to pay these costs. So I will be bringing forward a report February 3rd regarding exactly your question. And I will also be bringing forth an amended budget because now we have the tender. When we presented the capital budget to you, that was November 25th, which was quite a bit before the tender results came. And so we've modified things for that. So that'll be endorsement of the Minto portion of that project.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. And we'll move on to the second one. We have tile drain loan.
Yes, and this is one that was brought to you in October. Again, not municipal drains, but tile drain loans. It has the process too. So you have your initial report, your request, and this report is recommending that we proceed to a bylaw. The amount of the loan is $40,600, still well below the $50,000 limit. And again, we're contingently liable. We've never had to pay that yet because it goes as a lien against the property. And the town is basically the flow through. Anyway, so the next thing is to consider a bylaw.
Okay. Read the recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman and seconded by Councillor Podnowitz that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report finance 2026-04 tile drainage loan Bram Hill Farm South Inc. prepared by the Deputy Treasurer for information purposes. Further, that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passing the tile drainage rating bylaw 2026-005 during open session. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. That carries, and I'll pass the chair back
Thank
to
you.
the mayor. Thank you, Gord.
Thank you very much. We're into announcements. Councillor Dirksen, do you want to lead it off?
Just a reminder about Fire and Ice. It was too bad that it was canceled New Year's Eve, but it's wonderful that we are able to do most of it on the 16th of February, I believe it is, from 6 to 8 at the Farmers Marina.
Councillor Simmons.
I don't have my usual paper this week. I'm sorry. Just winging it off the top of my head, now there's not much happening in Minto other than hockey and curling, Northern Theater and programs at the libraries, so it's pretty quiet. Don't forget Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Minto, actually technically Palmerston Firefighters Association is taking on the OPP in a charity game. All donations go to the food bank, so show up. Time's at 7 o'clock.
Short and sweet, Paul. Good. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
I don't really have anything except maybe a reminder about the coldest night of the year. I know they're looking for counselors to participate in that, or anybody else that has people around. The evening of 28th, that's right. Because there's something else going on in the afternoon at 20. Okay. Exactly. Got that? Black Heritage, did that go into the microphone? Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Yes, Gord, Film Fest was canceled last night, so it is tonight, and the time and what's the movie? Gord?
It will be just under 2 hours from now at 7:15. Sentimental Value, winner of 6 European Film Awards. So
should be good.
Should be good.
Councillor Potnovitz.
I have no doubt.
Councillor Gunson.
I also have no announcements. Because I think you're gonna cover the one I've talked.
Yeah.
I'll let you get
Okay.
that thunder.
So the other thing that's coming up is the Big Brothers and Sisters Bowl on in Mount Forest. It is February 1st. It's Sunday morning. Councillor Anderson and myself are going. Did you get approval?
Not yet.
So we are, and I'm not sure if Tammy has found anybody else that wants to bowl, but I've got a sheet here. If anybody wants to
I can't go.
put their name on that.
I will sponsor.
Second thing is we were down at Roma. Oh, sorry. We were at Roma this week, and the town of Minto and the town of Niagara on the Lake were recipients, as well as quite a number of other initiatives. So our Minister Thompson, who is the Minister of Rural Affairs, made a promise last year that she was going to do something unique this year, and so we have Celebrating Rural Ontario Inspiration 2026. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 recipients in Ontario, all over the place. Another local one that got an award was Lexi Johnson from Listle. Her and her parents were down there. Down to receive the award, it was for Lexi's ambassador, the Listle Fair, and she won the competition at CN Terry. So she's a firecracker of a kid, I'm telling you. So this particular one that we received was a Rural Partnership Award, and it was a nice surprise for us. Our CAO has been working in the background and you mind just telling us a little bit about it? About what this initiative was?
Through you, Mayor Turton. So we've been working on what they call a municipal shared equipment model. And it's an opportunity for small and medium-sized municipalities in particular to lease short-term equipment from each other so that we don't have the same capital outlay that we usually have. An example would be that the town of Minto leased short-term a grader from the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake. And otherwise, if we would have had to go and purchase a grader, you're looking at a minimum of $500,000 in capital outlay. So we rented it for $5,000 per month, and we don't have that capital outlay to use, but we still maintain our same or better level of service to the community. So this is a collaboration model between municipalities, something that's we do have shared services certainly, but this is kind of a different kind of collaborative model, and something that we're hoping that could be shared across the province and save some taxpayers money at the end.
And I'm sure that every councillor that was at Roma was asked. A lot of good vibes. But so I do have the award here, and I want to present it to Greg Burke.
Need a picture.
Thank you for all your hard work on that. And there is, you have one. Okay, good. Okay. We're going to move along here then to, we have a resolution moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Gunson, with the committee of the whole convene into regular council. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, second by Councillor Elliott. Council Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the committee of the whole. All in favor of that motion? Get some bylaws. Resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2026-004 and 2026-005 be approved and read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. We have confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Botnovitz, that bylaw 2026-006 be to confirm actions of the council, corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held January 20th, 2026, be read first, second, third time, passed in open council, seal the corporation. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Adjournment moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the council of Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the following. All in favor of the motion? Thank you very much for that's carried, for a very productive meeting.